Hello. Well, today's Mother's Day, and I just want to say right now, this video is not for the mothers who love Mother's Day. And the mothers who are like, motherhood was the easiest, and my children all felt deeply loved, and I did everything exactly right, and I love Mother's Day. This is definitely not for you. So I'm just going to wait a second for you to keep scrolling so I can say what I need to say to the mothers who had complicated motherhood. Motherhood's always been a complicated issue for me because I didn't have a great relationship with my own mom. And then I got married and I thought, I'm going to do everything the way that maybe I thought I needed. And I'm going to be the best mom ever. I'm going to be the best mom ever. I'm going to give my kids the most magical childhood. And then life happened, and I had 5 children. I have 5 children, and they are between the ages of 25 and 35. So I had children for 10 years. Had all my children before I was 30 years old, and it all started out so perfectly. You know, I could stay home with my kids. I could give them this magical childhood, and I didn't have to work. And my husband just, that's kind of what we decided. I did make art and I did things on the side that I wanted to do, but for the most part, for my older children, I was there for all of it. And then after I'd had all my children, I started a company when I was 25 and started getting busy, but I still, I was able to really focus on the things I wanted to focus on. And then when my husband had his accident, and I want you to think of anything that happened in your life where tons of your choices got taken away, and your time and your resources and your ability to be and do the things that you wanted to do and be what you wanted to be, especially to your own children. Like I said, I wanted all of my children to be able to be individuals and be exactly who they were. So I was very vigilant about that, about them knowing, like, whoever you want to be, you get to be. And I had rules about, you can't, give your sibling a hard time for who they are, because they get to be who they want to be. And then, and it was fun. I did so many fun and amazing things. I look back on who I was as a mother, and I was so young. And I just kind of did things intuitively, and I loved it. And then life got really complicated when my husband had his accident. My children were between the ages of 13 down to 3, okay? 2 to 3, 13, 12 to 13, that is how old they were all that time. And then suddenly I was a single mom, and I was running a company, and I was devastated. I was in mourning, missing my husband, and also taking care of a very sick man, not having a partner, having, I think at that time I had between 12 and 20 employees all the time, 7 acres, to take care of, and completely overwhelmed. And I look back, and that was the moment when I stopped having the capacity and the ability to be the mother that I always wanted to be. And so Mother's Day started to be a really, really painful day for me, because I had to start reckoning with how much I judged my own mom, and how much I was still judging my own mom and the experience I had, and how I thought I was going to be able to make that right through what a great mother I was going to be. And oh man, I think I look back on so many things, and I think, man, all the things that I judged the harshest, I had to go in and learn why I would never want to be judged, and why I should never judge. And it's been a painful thing. So again, I'm talking to the women who have a lot of pain on Mother's Day, because, and I think the specific thing I'm talking about is, I remember the times when I had these 5 little children, and I was taking them to church, and I was working. I was running an international company. I was taking care of a sick husband. I was on my own. I was having a faith crisis, because even what I thought God was didn't turn out to be that, and I had to come to terms with all of that. just a lot of stuff was going on at once. And I remember being at church, and there would always be somebody who would come up and give, one or two or several people would come up and give these huge tributes to women. And the thing that was astounding to me was what they would talk about is all the things that like run women into the ground. My mother is selfless. My mother she never thinks of her own needs. She puts everything, for us, and she spends her entire day serving us. And at the time, I just thought, what happens when you don't have those choices? I mean, I literally used to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I would go to the gym, and I would be home by 7, and I would get my children ready for school, and I would take them to school, and I always, tried to have help. And then I would go to work, and I would run my company, and then I would come home, and sometimes the children were home, and sometimes I would go get them, and sometimes, the nanny or whatever would go get them, and then I would have, in the meantime, I'm having to take care of my husband, take care of all my employees. And then I would try by my very best to keep giving them little pieces of magic and support each of them in their endeavors. But man, I was so deluded. Like I wasn't able to fully focus. There were so many things that required so much attention from me. And so now, my 3 oldest children are married, and they all have children, and I'm watching them, and I'm so grateful. The thing that I pray for all the time, because each of them is able to give their children a different childhood, the childhood I wanted to give my children. But also, I think this is the first year, and this is just such a testament to how much healing I've done when I decided, like, I got to go in and learn to love myself and forgive myself and validate myself and go live my own life after all the sacrificing that I've had to make, and the way that I've had to live my life, and the way that I've just been beating myself up constantly over everything that I couldn't do. And this is the first year on Mother's Day that I'm not sitting here crying my eyes out, feeling like, man, I wish I could have done more as a mother. That was always my biggest thought was, man, I wish I wish I could have been the mother that I wanted to be. And I couldn't because I didn't have the capacity. I didn't have the support. I didn't have the resources. Also, in all honesty, the kind of mother I wanted to be is really unrealistic. And now I see my children parenting their children, and like it is, and I hope it always will be, every generation probably does a little bit better than last. I think my children do so much better than I did. I mean, we didn't have Pinterest. We didn't have TikTok and Facebook and all the places that give you all the tips, especially I had my first baby when I was 19. And so my friends were all in college, and I was really just a different kind of mother. Like I said, I wanted to let my children be exactly who they are. But I also, like I said, I wanted to keep them from any pain, any discomfort, any meanness of the world. And I couldn't. In fact, a lot of it came right into our own household, because I was doing international business, and I was traumatized. It's interesting when we are little children in adult bodies who are still trying to work through our own trauma, and then we go have children, and that's how these things perpetuate, and that's why it requires so much forgiveness. My mother died, it'll be 2 years this fall, and what's interesting is I've been able to go, and because of my own feelings of, wow, she had 9 children, and I was, an odd kid. I'm not for everybody. I am full blast me, and I don't conform. And I know that's hard for lots of people. I don't know. For some reason, I was hard for my mom. And I have really, really connected with her so much from the other side. I started immediately after she died working with an ancestral healer, because I was like, I got to get this figured out. And I have learned about her and gained so much respect and love for her through my own shame of what I wanted to be, and then just putting together all the pieces of what an absolutely perfect set of circumstances would have to keep happening over and over and over again for your children to have a perfect childhood, or for you to be the perfect mother. And maybe that doesn't even exist. Maybe I cause myself pain when I listen to these tributes of these mothers who are able to just be at every activity and sacrifice everything and put their whole selves into everything, when I was holding up the entire world in my family, and also trying to heal from my own pain. Maybe when I'm sitting there listening to those tributes, those women don't really even exist either. It's just a figment that we make up in our imagination. I remember listening to Gabor Mate. If you haven't listened to his work, it's stunning and beautiful. But listening to him, he would go and he would read obituaries, and he would say, listen to what this family or whatever wrote about this woman, and it was basically the same things. It was like, she sacrificed everything. She didn't think of her own needs. She did everything for us all the time. And he said, this is sickness. He's like, these are the women that I treat. They probably were relieved to finally be relieved of all that pressure. And I remember thinking, like, wow, I wonder if we are hurting each other by having this expectation that this is what motherhood is. It's funny, I talked to my daughter this morning, and she's got 2 little girls, and one of them's, well, they both are quite strong-willed, and which we love. They're gonna be, and I said, well, where do you think they got that from, you know? She was talking about, because she's my kid that's so honest with me. Like, she's the one that came and said, I had a lot of needs as a kid, and you weren't able to fill all of them, and I forgive you for that. You know, she'll just, and you're just like a punch in the gut, like, what? I didn't fill all your needs. But the fact that she came and told me that, and I was able to say, I wanted to, though. I didn't even know what they were, and I did the best that I could, and for us to be able to have those conversations. But this morning she said, Mom, I've come to the conclusion that my daughters are going to probably be in therapy talking about how I wasn't able to fulfill all their needs. And we just laughed together, because I said, well, what are you going to do with the rest of your life after 18 if it's not healing from all these imperfect humans living in a house together trying to figure out how to do life? So the point of this video is, it's about those of us who've had to live unconventional lives. I literally thought at this age, you know, we bought this 100-year-old farmhouse. How many years ago? 25 years ago. It was my dream house on 7 acres, and it was so beautiful, and we renovated it. We spent a year renovating it before we even moved into it, and we had the most beautiful, gorgeous lawn. And my dream was always that my children and grandchildren would drive up that driveway, and there would be rocking chairs on the front porch, and, you know, wreaths in every window and candles in every window, and it would just be the place. Like, I had this whole big dream that by this age, my children and my grandchildren would all be coming over to have a pot roast and carrots and potatoes every Sunday. And the truth is, I don't even have anywhere right now for all my children to gather. I mean, we figure it out. My children have homes now, and we usually meet there. And I can host my children one at a time at my own house. But life did not turn out the way that I worked for it to turn out, the way I wanted it to turn out. But something did work out in my favor when it came to motherhood. And that was that I can go visit each of my children. If I can go visit each of my children, I can see that they are a little bit closer with their children to being the kind of parent that I wanted to be. And for me, that feels like progress, that my grandchildren feel loved and seen and heard. In fact, almost all of my children have told me that never once in their life have they ever questioned if they were loved and if their parents were doing the best that they could. And I guess that's the best that we can do. So I want to just honor you mothers who have had a complicated motherhood and who wish you could have done better. I was thinking this morning about all the quilts I started and never finished because I couldn't, and how much shame I've held for just the analogy of that, of all the intentions I had for all the things that I wanted to do for my kids. And then life just kept happening and happening and happening. And that I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let go of all the shame that I have about all the things that I couldn't do, that I really, really wanted to do. And I'm going to give myself mercy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mother myself on this day and this week and any time that I feel this way. I'm going to send motherly feelings to my mother on the other side. And I think sometimes, no matter what our age difference is, sometimes women have to sit in a circle and mother each other, and so that we even know what that frequency feels like. And we have to be willing to accept that mothering. But the biggest thing of all is, if you're at home waiting to get the call or the greeting card or whatever from your children to tell you all the things that you hoped you would hear someday because of what you gave, you really, 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 really need to give that to yourself. And you need to learn to give that to yourself every single day. That thing that you're waiting for, that thing that you're waiting to hear, that thing that you're waiting to know, you know in your heart, in the deepest parts of your heart, you know what you gave. You know what your intention was. And you are the one who has to remind yourself of that. You are the one who has to extend appreciation and validation and congratulation, and mostly mercy. So much mercy, so much grace to yourself, to your mother, to your grandmothers, to everybody before you, so that your children can at least see that as a model, that motherhood requires so much grace and so much patience and so much understanding and so much real love that doesn't have to be quantified by a certain outcome, you know? So that's what I'm asking you to do today. I can tell you everything maybe that you want to hear, but you're not going to believe it from me till you believe it in here. And I'm finally at a place where I know what I gave. I know what choices I had in my life to choose from. And I know I chose the very best choice I could out of a whole bunch of crappy choices. I know that every day my number one priority was my children. It might not have looked like all the other mothers in the room who had different choices than I did, but my children were my number one priority every day, with 5,000 other things that I had to juggle just to keep them fed and keep them alive and keep everybody else alive. I know that. I know what's in my heart now for my children. I'm the only one who knows. I cannot wait around for children or anybody, my parents, my spouse, whatever, to tell me the things I need to hear, because I won't believe it until I know it first. And when you know it first, you don't need anybody else to tell you. What this world needs is a bunch of humans, and I work with women, so I'm going to say women. This world needs for women to know who they are and what they've given, and not to get trampled by the expectations and whatever the trends are for what people are saying about parents or saying about kids or whatever. Know you. Know this. Know what you've done, who you are, so that no intrusive thought that tells you that you're not enough can enter in and be believed. No outside lack of something being said, or something being said that felt really crappy. None of that will be able to enter in. It'll just be like, oh, okay, I can understand why they might feel that way, but I know. And that's what I am asking you to do today. I'm asking you to go all the way back and look at what you have made it through, what your intentions were. Maybe you made some mistakes along the way. Maybe you wish you would have done a way better job. I think all of us probably do. But also give yourself the grace. You are a person too. And someday those children are going to grow up, and they're going to go through a point when they realize they are a person too. And your job now is to be an example of a person who knows they gave it their all and doesn't swim around in shame and become an object of ridicule or even an object of absolute praise, because that's its own prison when everybody thinks you're perfect and you have to maintain that. You are the one that needs to give yourself mercy. You are the one that needs to see you for who you are and see what your contribution and sacrifice has been. You are the one that needs to hear your greatest desires, your greatest needs, your greatest sorrows. You are the one, because nothing anybody else ever does, including God, is going to be able to heal you and penetrate into your heart as knowing until you know it for yourself. And I know that if you are a mother that you gave it everything that you could. Even if there were things going on in your life where it looks like maybe you didn't give anything at all, I know that you gave everything that you could, every single minute of every day. Depending on what was going on in your life, like I said, it was more or less, you know, depending on what's going on in your life. So you, please, you sit down and you give yourself the thing that you were hoping you were going to get from your kid today, or your husband, or your partner, your friends, or the brunch, or whatever it was. You take some time to go be by yourself in the bathtub, in the backyard, shut yourself in a closet, whatever, and you tell yourself the things you were hoping to hear from that kid today, or that person, or that card, or whatever. You do that, please, okay? That's what we've got to do. I love you so much, and I'll be back later.